Thanks very much. I'm also kind of a down-to-earth person that went to UMBC and lived near the campus, and I'm a grateful alum to this university, so thank you for inviting me. I'm interested in just introducing the fact of where we are in a society right now with truth, especially in terms of media. I think we're in sort of a crisis period, but I don't want that to be a downer for you because the downer is self-evident every day. But I think it's interesting that in my field of documentary filmmaking and documentary cinematography, there's an interesting kind of historic precedent that was, I mean, the medium of film has been around for 150 years or so, and but I really think the invention of documentary filmmaking occurred in the 1600s when Sir Francis Bacon had these weird concepts towards truth. One of them is there's an immense ocean around the island of truth. And we can feel that today if we watch TV or listen to the media. And then there was another one, which is something, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's something like the contemplation of things as they are, without error and without interference and adulteration, is nobler than a whole harvest of inventions. Which is an interesting idea because when it's fiction versus fact in a way. When cinema was invented, the motion picture camera was invented, the invention immediately was bifurcated. And some people said this is a great way to provide a mirror to see who we are, film the way we are and the way trains run and the way we look when we dance. And then the other inventors were like, oh, this is a great invention. This can be our fantasy, our escape, our dreams. And if you look at that 150-year precedent, this bifurcated invention, one dominates the industry of motion pictures quite a bit, the entertainment, the escape industry. And the documentary part, the truth-looking, the mirror part, it's harder to watch. It also requires more attention to who we are and how we behave. So for that reason, and because it's not as emotionally arousing, it sort of has been marginalized a little bit. So the marginalization continues in my field in the sense that documentaries are incredibly important, at least I think they are, and we need to see them, and we can actually learn a bunch of stuff about who we are by looking at them. Now, when I say documentary, it's a huge field. It includes the kind of high-bar documentaries that I respect and try to aspire to work on. But unfortunately, the documentary, the word also contains a lot of BS. It contains things that are propaganda. It contains fake news. It contains informational and educational films, which tend to be dry and boring. And it also contains this new, relatively new genre of television called reality television, which is a complete farce. Because I've worked on a couple of reality shows, and I know that they're cast and they're controlled, they're paid for, and they're made to look like documentaries as a platform. And whether you're talking duck hunters or people on dates or chefs in a contest for cooking, all those shows are tightly scripted and controlled. And they're controlled and tightly scripted by corporate profit-making industries of television entertainment with car commercials and beer commercials and stuff like that. So as a documentary filmmaker for the last 30 or 40 years, I'm quite insulted by the misuse of the word documentary and the sort of bastardization that's occurred with these emotionally arousing fake documentaries. I'm more than disappointed when I look at the news media, which also comes from that side of the invention. And when I look at the news media, I'm appalled and scared because there's so much propaganda and there's so much kind of corporate control, political interest, television, that it's really scary. Anyway, I studied film here. I went on to become a freelance cinematographer, which I still do. And then every once in a while, the stars align and I'm able to make a documentary with resources that I can muster. So I want to show you a clip of a film I did 8 years ago. It's a 65-minute film, but I can only show you just the 2-minute trailer. So I'll show you this. The film is about school food reform. It's called Cafeteria Man, and it was in film festivals and was on television, and it's still in use today. It's about a social change agent named Tony Geraci who wanted to attack the school food problem in America. He did it in Baltimore, and he became very famous nationally while we were making a film, which was kind of nice. And so let's look at that, and then I'll talk about it afterward. See if it works. One more.
Mystery meet again, we had this Friday.
It's good and it's nasty all at the same time.
Let's rock, baby.
Tony Gerasi is with us. He's Baltimore's new director of food nutrition.
We got 85,000 kids out there that's looking for a meal every day.
This is going to be a model that every state in this country is going to start using to feed their kids local, fresh food.
We wanted to have our lunch better because it was disgusting.
Focusing on school food reform is, at some level, essential.
Pizza. Yeah, pizza.
I ate because I was hungry and I had nothing to eat, and I didn't bring lunch every day.
NPR in Washington, what have you done?
There are many of you in this room that will not be back here next year. And you know who you are. Everybody has kids, right? So you think, okay, this is common ground. It's not the case.
I spent $2 million to share our fresh fruit. You're saying you're not getting any of it?
We don't get no fresh food.
This is crazy.
How you doing, man?
Another day in paradise, baby.
Man, give him help.
All right.
If Tony makes this happen here, I think you'll see this happening all over the country.
Cooking these fresh vegetables and fruits organically grown. You can't get them organically grown in the hood because we don't got no grass.
Same kids who are already struggling to eat good meals at home are getting inferior meals at school.
There are times that Tony wants to push too fast.
I'm not interested in being a bureaucrat.
I am just so proud and honored to have you here at the White House.
Fresh is good, you guys. Fresh is good. How do we do this? How do we figure this stuff out? We need a recipe for change. Is this film going to make me look fat?
Thank you. So when resources come together and I'm able to make a documentary film, as a cinematographer, as a camera person, I work with a lot of producers, and often the stuff is very scripted and controlled. At best, it's scripted and controlled for a good reason. And so when I get the money and the resources to make my own film, which I can direct and produce and shoot, like this one, I often try to go for a very pure form of documentary filmmaking that's called cinema verite. It's a French word. It started in the 60s, this idea of like observational, mostly handheld, in the moment, on location recording of people's lives and people's events without scripting and without asking people to do something again and without fancy equipment that requires a setup. And so to me, it's liberating, and I love to do that. And so 8 years ago when that film came along, I was very excited about being able to film things as they are and to follow this guy around for 2 years. The art of documentary filmmaking, I think, is all about microcosm. To say that like a documentary film that's an hour long, which this one was, could capture the entire story of this man and this work is impossible. So already it's a huge iceberg, the tip of which is an hour documentary. And then what I just showed you in a 2-minute trailer is another tip of the iceberg. So this microcosmic thing is, it's necessary in filmmaking. It's necessary in books, although to a lesser degree, because you can write a huge book and almost cover everything. But for me, paying attention to the microcosm is crucial. Because if you really want to make a documentary about a subject and you want to be fair to the subject and aspire for truth, there is no objectivity, by the way. There's no such thing as a documentary that is objective. Because you're ordering shots, you're deciding when to shoot and when not, and you might put a certain music track. All the things you do as a documentary filmmaker are subjective things. However, the noblest thing to do, in my opinion, is to try to tell real stories in a way that the tip of the iceberg represents the iceberg fairly. Another way of looking at that is my idea of the highest bar of documentary filmmaking is when there are 3 parties who are satisfied. The 3 parties are the maker, the subject of your film, whether it's one or more people, and the audience. So if you can make a film where the person who's in the film will not be embarrassed and will say, yes, that's me, and you make a film that creatively satisfies your urge to make it, and then you can show it to an audience and they appreciate the story and the message. Those three things, if they're all good, make like a really fantastic film in my estimation. And it's very easy to do two of those things and have the other one sort of fail. And I think that's kind of a level of mediocrity that I'm trying to avoid when I make my own films. So this, the idea of not scripting and not telling people where to stand and not telling them what to do and not having any vested interest above you that says you have to make this film, sell this house or whatever, that for me is liberating, exciting, and it's what I love to do. So this new film I just finished a couple of weeks ago, literally, is it's a different kind of cinema verite documentary in the sense that it's a shorter film, it's a half-hour film, and it's really, it takes a position on the topic, but it takes it in this weird way. It takes a very controversial topic, and it presents it with a sort of neutral platform so that the viewer of the film is not persuaded. Many documentary films, of course, are advocacy films. They persuade you that pollution is bad. They persuade you that Justin Bieber is good. Documentaries have a tendency toward not only subjectivity, but persuasive subjectivity. And everything we see on television that's, quote, documentary, usually has a message that's subjective, that's trying to enlighten us toward a certain position. So this recent film that I've worked on for the last 3 years is called Gun Show, and it's about an artist, David Hess, who's here with us today, and he spent the last 3 or 4 years making assault weapons out of found objects. And there was a show here at UMBC with his work, and Kathy Odell, the curator, is here with us as well. It's a very personal film for me because I've known David a long time. It's also a chance to, I grew up as an artist as a kid. It's a chance for me to say this documentary film is about guns, but it's really about art. Because it's about art being able to allow a neutral tertiary platform for people to stop yelling at each other and to listen to each other. And David's work represented that. We started working together on this film. It's very much his film and my film because we're tied at the hip as friends. But I'll show you a trailer that was made for that film, and then I'll say a few more words about it. Okay. Here it is.
Weapons like this were very necessary to keep our country free.
So this is sort of a statement, is it?
A bumper from a car, tool from a lathe, some batteries, wrench handle, a valve from a furnace.
If it were real, delusions of grandeur of power.
I know it's art, but I'm kind of feeling it. There's definitely a physical weight there, but also kind of the mental weight.
So I made 100 of these.
100?
Yeah.
I feel like Patty Hearst.
I don't want to touch it.
I don't think I can pick it up.
So I never hang them. I just put them on the ground.
Just to see them laid out on a cloth like that, I know this sounds weird, but it makes me proud to be an American.
So hopefully that gave you the creeps a little bit and made you think in a new way. I'm going to close by just saying that it's a privilege to do this kind of work. And I'm speaking now of all independent documentary filmmakers. There's millions of us making films. The challenge for you and for us is to find a way to connect and to see these films. It's getting harder and harder to sort of find documentary films. In the old days, television just presented it and everybody watched it and talked at the water cooler on PBS or whatever. They talked the next day about it. Those days have changed, and so the struggle is for us to not only make these films, but have them reach people and then have people be able to benefit from watching them. Documentaries don't always have to teach and inform. They also can entertain. They also can be just enriching to watch and thoughtful to think about. So anyway, thank you very much, and hope you can see the whole film soon.